Welcome to episode number 75 of the Sleep Whisperer podcast. I'm speaking with my friend Rudy Nasif. Rudy is the co-founder of Viva Rays. He has an engineering background and a solid understanding of the quantum physics of light. Rudy has been educating more than 150 functional medicine doctors about maximizing the power of light for patient health and well-being. He passionately believes that we can all manage artificial light, and he wants to educate us and provide us with the right knowledge and tools to improve overall health, sleeping patterns, energy, and focus. This is an episode you just don't want to miss. Professor Michael Gradisar spoke about how dangers of blue light is a myth on episode 47. What's the other side to this? You might also be very familiar with Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor, and his book on circadian rhythms being different in his book The Power of When. What is Rudy's opinion on people having different circadian rhythms as is believed by the sleep doctor? Does the night owl even exist? We break down several myths around light and speak about weight loss, depression, and more when it comes to light. Take a listen from start to finish. And I hope you're listening to the guided meditations, the universal sound meditation by Himalayan Yogi on episode 74 is potent. Sound is the essence of communication and your connection with the universe. The universal sound meditation harnesses the energy of sound to soothe your inner self and cure every pain point of your life so that you can evolve to become the beautiful sounding board for the universe that you're meant to be and bloom to be that personality that has so much potent energy within. Take a listen if you missed the meditation, and please do leave us some reviews so that the show can reach the audience that is truly struggling with poor sleep. Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, light functional medicine practitioner, author, and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey. Rudy, pleasure to have you on the Sleep Whisperer podcast. This one exciting episode. I'm really looking forward to breaking several myths that have come up on previous episodes. And you're the best person to go into a lot of what I'm going to ask you. Be warned, it's going to be a slightly controversial episode, and I'm hoping that actually gets people noticing it and bringing their attention to what's really important around light and circadian rhythm. And of course, I want to first take a little journey through your whole aspect of arriving at Viva Rays. What got you fascinated? What brought you to where you are today? And of course, I've watched you on several other shows speaking about light, always been fascinated by what you have to say. So it was really a sort of destiny that suddenly brought us together a few days after I watched you on Sachin's show. So how about you just get started telling us a little bit about Viva Rays?
Yeah, totally. So in today's environment, I think many of us are exposed to very little natural light during the day, and we are overexposing ourselves to harmful artificial light from our phones, from our screens, from our televisions, and from LED bulbs day and night. And so many people are more than ever before feeling chronically stressed, wired, and having a difficulty accessing a good night's sleep, a restful night's sleep. And as a result, we're waking up exhausted, feeling tired, fatigued, unmotivated, and also sometimes depressed. Personally, I felt stuck in this cycle for nearly 25 years. And being diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, I really suffered from headaches, agitation, and inability to focus. And growing up, I struggled through engineering school. I stayed up very late, feeling wired and stimulated, only to lack the energy, motivation, and focus the following day. And eventually, day after day, this led me to deep depression and disorientation. And I honestly tried so many things to feel better. I felt tired and exhausted going from one holistic doctor to another, and really overwhelmed with all the different health opinions that I was exposed to. So I changed my diet. I tried so many different biohacks, taking supplements, and I was exercising and meditating. But unfortunately, nothing was working for me at the time. And miraculously, one specific event changed all of this. I spent several weeks on a farm, being exposed only to natural sunlight during the day and to candles and firelight in the evening. And within a matter of days, I started sleeping peacefully through the night to then wake up before the sunrise, feeling refreshed, full of energy, and focused. I literally went from feeling foggy-headed, disoriented, and depressed to feeling clear, motivated, and focused. I mean, I didn't change my diet. I didn't take any supplements. I didn't do any new biohacks. And I was meditating and exercising in the same way. How did that magic happen? I every night at the farm, I was contemplating whether changing my light environment was able to transform my life in as short as 3 days. And my quest for answers led me to study and research the latest discoveries in the field of circadian rhythm and the artificial, the effects of artificial lights on humans. And what I learned is that humankind spent, for thousands of years, they spent much time outdoors, exposed to sunlight, which increases in intensity from sunrise to solar noon, like a crescendo of a musical scale. And then it descends down the scale around sunset, transitioning into the darkness of the night. And these different color temperatures of light and the varying amounts of blue light throughout the whole day provided very important information for our bodies to orient themselves around the optimal timing of when to wake up in the morning, when to tackle big problems, be creative and productive, when to go to sleep, and when to eat and digest. And this enabled us to have a perfect 24-hour rhythm. However, in our modern society, this is not the case anymore, because we are chronically exposed to artificial light that is constantly emitting the same blue light frequency day and night. And this frequency has a color temperature of 6,500 kelvins, which is similar to sunlight's color temperature around 12 noon. Now, this confuses our brains and our bodies into thinking that it's 12 noon summertime all year long. And it starts disrupting our natural rhythm, which governs how well we do our daily functions, from thinking to creating to digesting to sleeping. And I came to this realization deeply when I moved back from the farm to the city. The moment I stepped back in Toronto, I was bombarded by artificial lights everywhere. And my sleep and wake cycle went out of tune within few days, and I started to feel depressed and disoriented once again. So at this point, I was really desperate to find a solution that will allow me to have the freedom to live in the modern world while still accessing those infinite states of flow and energy that I experienced on the farm. So I discovered about blue light blocking glasses. And after trying so many in the market, I didn't experience the benefits that I experienced on the farm. It was very different. And based on my studies and with speaking with so many of the world leading experts in circadian rhythm, neuroscience, and photobiology, I learned that we needed a dynamic light management system that blocks different amounts of blue light at different times of the day and allow different color temperatures of light at different times of the day. And the problem was that most of the companies in the market were providing a one-for-all solution. And 95% of those companies didn't provide a scientific testing that showed how much their lenses were blocking. So at this point, I was excited to make our own. And thanks to my engineering background, I understood the physics of light very well. So we teamed up with some optic experts in British Columbia. And this meant that we had access to state-of-the-art lab equipment, which helped us to produce an advanced 3-lens light management system. So all of us could manage our consumption of artificial light throughout the whole day, and once again, experience a productive, energetic, and focused life. And at this point, Viva Rays was born.
Love it, Rudy. And in fact, I could just so picture you on that farm. And I wanted to tell you that when you spoke about how we are meant to be, that, the light just peaks and then at noon it's at its highest and then it starts to go down. And we are meant to be in sync with that. There's a beautiful symbolism. I don't know if you've ever done the sun salutation in yoga. Have you done this matrix of 12 poses? And the symbolism of that is that it represents these different times of the day, and there's a noonday sun where then pose that you're meant to be at a point of surrender because it's so much out there that you really can't take so much of it. So I was just thinking of that, the representation of the sun salutation was exactly the image that came to my mind when you spoke about how it was meant to be. And I'm sure we're going to get into also how Viva Rays blue blockers different from other forms, but I want to save that for the very end of the episode, so I don't want to go into that right now. But I'd love for us to get started by just comparing with the other episode that I did with Professor Michael Gradisar on how the blue light is just a myth today for people to sell sleep products, including blue light blocker, and that his research showed that it really does not impact us. And he did mention that the only thing that impacts sleep is if someone shifts their bedtime later than their normal bedtime. And I've asked him several questions around this as well, whether the content of what someone is exposed to when they are exposed to blue light might also impact sleep. But do you feel there's truth in this concept that the blue light being harmful to us is just a myth today for fueling this big marketing of sleep products?
That's a great question. I partly agree. And the reason why so, I think because so many people are coming to believe that blue light is bad. And this is not necessarily true. Blue light is a light frequency present in nature. and therefore it just is. It's not good or bad, it's relative. And its effects on us really depend on the time of the day we are exposing ourselves to it, and whether or not it was proportionate with the other color frequencies of light. Okay. And so to answer this question, the answer becomes easy. The blue light that we're often exposed to come from human man-made light, which we like to call junk light. I mean, junk light could be much worse than junk food. It's like consuming spoonful of sugars rather than whole organic food. And the reason why is, for thousands of years, we have been exposed to natural sunlight during the day and to a lot of darkness at night. Now, this natural sunlight during the day has a lot of blue light, yet it is balanced with all the other color frequencies of light. They come together at the package. They never come in isolation. If, in contrast, if we look at the spectral curve of an LED bulb or LED screen, we will see that it's extremely different than the emission of sunlight. How so? It emits blue light that peaks at 455 nanometer in wavelength. Okay, and it's actually depleted from the orange, red, and yellows. Now, the problem with that is blue light in nature is a stimulating color, and it has degenerative properties. And that's natural, just like UV has a degenerative properties, but this doesn't mean that UV is bad or blue light is bad. This means that this degenerative properties comes with regenerative properties from infrared light and from red light. And when they come together, they form a beautiful balance. Okay. Now, the problem is that we are exposed to blue light in isolation from LED screens and bulbs. So this often leads to eye strain, eye fatigue, and agitation during the day. Now, the equation changes completely at night because according to the laws of nature, the night should follow the day. And this all means that at nighttime, what actually signals the presence of nighttime is the absence of blue and green light. And therefore, anytime we expose ourselves to blue light at night, we're actually confusing our bodies and our brains about into thinking that it's actually daytime. And this causes a physiological change in our body. I'm not going to go too much into it because I guess we'll explore it when we talk more about sleep and circadian rhythm. But what this does, it suppresses our melatonin, the sleep hormone, and it increases the stress hormone, cortisol, at the wrong time of the day. Now, at nighttime, naturally, as human beings, our core temperature drops down, our breathing rate goes down, our heart rate goes down, and our energy starts being directed inwardly towards cellular cleaning, rejuvenation, and restoration. Now, when we are exposed to stimulating light, all of this physiology is affected, so much so that our core temperature goes up, our breathing rate goes up, cortisol start going higher at the wrong time of the day. And therefore, it causes a big confusion to our organs and cells, inhibiting them from doing the work that they are designed to do at nighttime, which is cleaning, restoring, all kind, like rewiring all the learning that has been happening throughout the day. All of these things happen at night in the absence of blue and green light when our bodies understand that it's dark.
I think, Rudy, you also mentioned to me that the retinal sensitivity varies between the daytime and the nighttime. So could you just tell us a little bit about that before we go into actually sleep and wake cycle, and why is retinal sensitivity different? And I must tell you, Rudy, I'm not sure if anyone has looked into it. It's just my hunch really, but my eye doctor actually did tell me that I had this laser corrective surgery 20 years ago, where they shave the cornea to correct vision. And he said it predisposes you towards light sensitivity and dry eyes. And ever since I did that, I'm so sensitive to light, Rudy, that you won't believe. In the room, if there's a pinprick of light, it bothers me like it's a big spotlight on me, and my husband actually thinks I'm being a diva about it, but I really feel bothered by that. So I don't know if anyone's looked into it, but what's the difference in retinal sensitivity between morning and night?
Totally. Thanks for the reminder, and that's a great question. So naturally speaking, and it will make sense to anyone, whether we're looking at it from biological, scientific perspective or not. As human beings, we need a lot of brightness during the day to activate our circadian clock. And this is because our retinal sensitivity when we first wake up is very low. Okay. And this all means that if we wake up in the morning and get bright light, it's not enough to activate our circadian clock and causes us to feel alert, focused, energized, etc. We need a lot of bright light. So we need to be outdoors, exposing ourselves to the rising sun. And even if it's cloudy outside, it's much better than inside, because if you ever measure the different in-lux between inside and outside, it's tremendous, even on a cloudy day. Now, the equation changes at night, because the longer we have been awake, the more hours we have been up, the higher the retinal sensitivity is. And this means that very slight amount of light at night is enough to cause a delay shift in our melatonin production, to trigger our circadian rhythm and to shift our sleep cycle in the wrong direction. Okay, now there's a trick that I'd like to share with the audience that will help reduce down the retinal sensitivity at night. And this is literally by watching the sunset. It has been shown that anytime we watch the sunset, it reduces down our retinal sensitivity, so much so that we become a little bit less vulnerable to artificial light in the evening.
I love it. I love it. I can so picture myself standing outside from tomorrow doing that. Thank you for that. And you did mention, Rudy, also about you compared light with how it's like eating spoonsful of sugar. So I'd love for you to talk about, you call it as light nutrition. So I'd love for you to go a little bit into that before we talk about sleep and wakefulness. And in fact, how light plays such a key role even in wakefulness, and how you are cognition, productivity, energy, mood, everything.
Totally. I'm thinking, where is the best place to open up to this? But there's something that I really enjoy, and most people don't realize that Albert Einstein, for instance, taught us a lot about light. And even though we haven't translated it much yet into biology and medicine, we are starting to do so. But Albert Einstein taught us through the law of relativity, E equal mc2, E being light, M being mass, and C being velocity, that light and matter are exactly the same thing. And the only difference is the environment in which each side of the equation is in. Okay, so what that means is that when light slows down, it creates things of mass. And that also means that everything around you at this moment, including you and the planet, was once light and is profoundly influenced by light. Every sunrise, I ponder the beauty of this equation, realizing that the light that is entering my eyes is slowing down and is recreating me with new life every day. It's regenerating my organs, my tissues, my heart, my brain. And therefore, the quality of light that we expose ourselves to on a daily basis is very, very, very important. Now, there's another thing that Albert Einstein taught us through the photoelectric effect. And the photoelectric effect literally means that when light shines on matter, it generates a weak electric current. Okay, now why is that important? I think oftentimes things being discovered in science are the reverse engineering of what actually happens in the body. And it's exactly true in this case with the discovery of Fritz Hollwich, a German scientist, back in the 1970s, showing us that light entering the eyes converts into an electric signal. And this flow of electricity turns on our pituitary gland, activates our endocrine system, and activates our metabolic functions. So this all means that light plays a fundamental role in our ability to generate energy, to metabolize food, burn the food that we eat, and burn the fat. And basically, it also plays a major role in how well we sleep and rejuvenate at night. And this has been validated by the research of Dr. Robert Becker, the author of the book Body Electric. And he showed us that this electric current that is being generated is the key element to all regeneration, healing, and good quality sleep. He ran experiments on animals showing how this electric current was able to regenerate broken bones and scarred tissues. And I really recommend Dr. Becker's book. It's a phenomenal book. And he explains a lot of psychic phenomena through the language of quantum biophysics. So yeah, in summary, I think we're all familiar with solar panels, right? And I think just like sunlight generates an electric current, when light shines on a solar panel, it generates a flow of electricity. And in the same way, this spark of light is what has enabled us as human beings to evolve from a single-celled organism called bacteria over the past 1.5 billion years, and stimulated the development of our nervous system, of our and enabled us to develop bigger brains, so that we become these super powerful human beings that we are today, that are able to memorize, think, perceive, feel, imagine, and interact with the environment.
So Rudy, how can we actually help to optimize our sleep, our wakefulness, and using light the right way? And I do also want us to talk a little bit about whether there are different circadian rhythms. But if you could first just talk a little bit about how do you think we are meant to be in sync with, you did say that night follows day. So how are we meant to be in harmony with that rhythm?
When it comes to light nutrition, it's important to understand our relationship with mitochondria. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with mitochondria, mitochondria is the little engine in our body that burns the food that we eat and produce all of our energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. And you can think of ATP as the currency, and when it splits open, it creates the dollars or the energy units that our body needs in order to function optimally during the day. Now, every cell in our body, except red blood cells, contain mitochondria, okay? And the number of mitochondria per cell really depend on the metabolic function of that cell. So high energy consuming organs like the brain and the heart contains thousands of mitochondria per cell, whereas fat cells contain far fewer mitochondria. And the latest research have shown that our health and our ability to live a healthy and energetic life depends on the health of our mitochondria. The more our mitochondria is able to produce energy, the more we are able to carry out optimal functions, daily functions, from thinking to creating, even sleeping, because sleeping requires energy as well. Now, I like to use the analogy of a car's engine. And basically, similar to how a car's engine requires it requires fuel in order to generate energy. Uh, like I think the ignition system of the car it requires a spark in order to combust this fuel first and generate energy so the car is able to function. In our bodies, we require fuel in the form of food, and we require oxygen, and when we breathe, and we require a spark in the form of light to be able to metabolize this food. And if the ignition system of the Ferrari is not working properly, fuel alone will not be able to run the car. So in the same way, high quality supplements and food and organic food will not be able to run our engine if we're not getting that spark from light, because it's literally light that gives the chemical reaction, that spark to light up the enzymes in our body so that we can metabolize things. So it all starts with a healthy diet first, and then food diet is a complementary to that.
I loved all that you said, Rudy, because this means that light plays a positive role if we use it in the right way in everything, because cellular function is at the core of all healing. I mean, oxidative stress in someone can prevent healing in any system, any organ. So we have such a powerful tool in our hands if we use it the right way. And on that note, I must ask you this, because Dr. Michael Bruce's book recently has been very popular, and it talks about differing circadian rhythms in people, and so something similar to the night owl, called a different name, but some people who are meant to go to bed late at night, maybe even at midnight. Some people are at their productive best at their late into the night. And I've spoken about this to several other practitioners, including Ayurveds, who've disagreed with this concept, that there is a reason why endocrine systems are linked to light in our body. There's a reason why we were meant to be in sync with nature. So I'd love for you to talk about, first of all, whether you agree that we have different chronotypes, but if not, then what do you think is the science behind why we need to be in harmony with the Earth's biorhythm?
Totally. I agree and I disagree. What I agree on is that we actually have different chronotypes. What I disagree on is how we're perceiving this difference in the chronotype. I personally thought that I'm a night owl for so many years, and I have given myself the biggest excuse to stay up very late, only to wake up lacking the energy, motivation, and focus the following day. And this cycle has literally led me to deep depression and disorientation. I have met dozens of people who claim to be night owls and who are stuck exactly in the same cycle that I have been stuck with. Now, it's becoming very clear, and especially with the latest research on circadian rhythms, that the quality of the light that we are exposing ourselves to day and night will determine our when we will produce melatonin, the timing of our melatonin, and when we will wake up in the morning. So to answer this, I guess the reason we wake up in the morning is because in response to light, the central clock in the brain that is responsible for telling all of the millions of cellular clocks in our body about the time of the day, it sends a signal to the adrenal gland above the kidney to secrete the hormones cortisol and adrenaline. And this alerts our body that it's time to get going. It increases our core temperature, our breathing rate, our heart rate. And therefore, we start feeling focused, energized, alert, and ready for the day. Now, at this moment, there's a cellular timer that is set, which dictates when another very important sleep hormone called melatonin will be released about 12 to 14 hours from the time when the healthy pulse of cortisol happened in the morning. Okay, so technically, this will determine when we would want to go to sleep and how well we will sleep and when we would want to wake up the second day. Now, there's another factor that will determine the release of melatonin at night. And this factor is called darkness, because melatonin is only secreted in response to complete darkness. And therefore, when we want to think of factors that will enable us, that will determine when we will go to sleep at night and how well we will sleep, there's technically two very important factors that control all of this. The timing of our morning sunlight, because this will determine when the cortisol pulse will happen in the morning, and therefore will set the cellular timer for melatonin. And the number two is the darkness that we're getting at night and blocking all artificial light. Because even though the cellular timer might have been set at the right timing, we have the power to delay the onset of melatonin only by exposing ourselves to the wrong type of light at the wrong time of the day. So what night owls often do, they expose themselves to a lot of artificial light at night, and this causes their melatonin suppression to be suppressed and to be delayed into the early morning hours. And therefore, they cannot wake up in the morning and get that morning sunlight. And their cortisol is also shifted into later hours. Now, the problem with that is at some point during the day, there's a circadian dead zone. And what that means is no matter how much bright light you get, you cannot shift your circadian rhythm in the right direction anymore. And this is often why night owls are stuck within that cycle. They get a lot of artificial light at night at the wrong time of the day, which increases their cortisol at the wrong time of the day and decreases their melatonin. Therefore, the release of melatonin extends into later hours in the morning, and they wake up feeling very tired, very groggy, and their cortisol is not healthy in the morning.
And I also like, Rudy, when you mentioned that they cause a delay in their melatonin and subsequently cortisol, that also explains why a lot of people who do believe in the concept of a night owl say that they've tested people and they found that their melatonin is released much later than someone else who's not a night owl. So obviously the body is responding in response to the light exposure rather than just being that way all the time. And I personally also feel that when someone is a night owl, there's a lot of physiological reasons for that. It's not necessarily that they might be meant to be that way. There could be the adrenal function is varied. Like you said, it's delayed. The cortisol in the morning is delayed. So there's several reasons for why someone could be a night owl. And also, I think that when you analyze someone with questions or a way of finding out that they're night owl, remember that you are capturing information at that point in time when they're already the night owl. So responses at that time are going to point towards the fact that they're a night owl. That doesn't necessarily indicate that they are meant to be that way forever. But on that note, I think we must bring our attention back to how can we optimize light for our own sleep and wakefulness cycle.
You know, there's something very important you mentioned. It reminded me of something I was reading, the circadian code, and by Sachin Panda. And in the book, he was mentioning about a recent study that shows demystify the belief about night owls, because they brought a bunch of night owls and they measured their melatonin, and they saw that their melatonin was happening much later in the night. Now they took those guys and they went camping for a week or so, and their lighting after the sunset was limited to fire and candlelight, just like my story, right? And within a matter of 3 days, they were taking their melatonin again, and the melatonin release started happening much earlier in the evening around 8 p.m. And those same night owls who used to stay up late until 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, thinking that they're night owls, they started sleeping at 9:30 p.m. and waking up before the sunrise. And their whole cortisol melatonin cycle shifted in the right direction. Right. So I think this is interesting to mention.
I think we could go on for so long just debating about the concept of the night owl, but I do want us to talk about how can we optimize our wakefulness and sleep cycle using light the right way.
Totally. So in order to start shifting our cycle in the right direction, we gotta start living in sync and in rhythm. Okay, and this sync and rhythm is determined by the light information that we receive into our central clock in the brain, because it's literally this light that resets the timing of the clock. Okay, now how do we get this timing right? Well, we know that all circadian activities and this timing is controlled by the master clock in the brain. Okay, and light is the most important information that reset this clock. So for this, I like to use an analogy that help people understand this mechanism, because I'm a firm believer that with visualization and with understanding, we're able to shift paradigms and we're able to reprogram ourselves. Even a lot of time we know things, but we don't really know them until we start practicing them. So for this, I'd like to use the analogy of a musical symphony. And just in every musical symphony, there's a conductor, a person who reads the musical notes and sends signals to the musical players, letting them know what to do, which note to hit, how high, how low, etc. Okay, so I'd like the audience to think of our bodies as this beautiful place where this symphony is happening every 24 hours. There's a musical symphony that happens. And I want you to think, let the conductor of the symphony represent this master clock in the brain that sits in the center of the brain. Let the musical notes represent the light information from sunlight. And let the musical players represent our organs, our tissues, and our cells in our bodies. Okay, so in our bodies, this conductor is continuously reading musical notes from sunlight, from light information, and it is responsible for telling all of the millions of cellular clocks in our bodies, in our organs and tissues, what to do. It's how our body knows when to wake up in the morning, when to eat and digest, when to tackle big problems, and when to go to sleep at night. Now imagine, Deepa, if this conductor in the musical symphony keeps on reading the wrong musical notes. How would the music sound? Awful, right? Okay, imagine if this happens to our body. And it does every single day. Every single day in our modern life, we do not allow the conductor in our brain to read the proper signals of light, because we drown it with artificial light that is mainly blue light, as we mentioned, which confuses our brain into thinking that it's 12 noon summertime all year long, and that it's supposed to be doing one thing rather than the multitude of self-healing functions that nature has programmed us to do along the 24-hour cycle. Now, the question is, knowing what we know, how do we get this cycle right? It's super easy. We can start with simply taking two steps. One, the timing of our morning sunlight. So when we wake up in the morning, what do we do first? Are we programmed to look at our phones? Are we programmed to turn on the computer and start scanning our emails? And if so, we need to reprogram this. And we need to step outside first thing in the morning and get bright light into our eyes.
I'm going to stop you for a second, Rudy, because I must ask you this, since you said we must wake up and step into the morning light. What if you're like me, where you wake up at 4 in the morning, where the light is not coming up for another 2 hours? Then what do I do?
Well, you have two different options, in my opinion. One is you take it easy with red lights, orange lights, until dawn, and then around dawn you go outside and get your morning light. Now, that will depend on how you want your level of alertness around that time. If you really want to be alert and awake, then you want to get high quality artificial lighting that will stimulate your central clock in similar ways that sunlight does. And I'm aware that we, at the moment in the market, we cannot find really good quality artificial lighting. And this is one of the reasons why all of my focus and energy right now is being directed on research and developments of indoor lightings that will revolutionize our indoor lighting industry as we know it. So I'm so excited about this. But to recap, you have two different options. You either take it easy and meditate, and knowing that you're not gonna be in a full alert, full focus state at that time, is if you stay with orange and red light. And with that being said, if you want to go that road, then if you're turning on the lights around you, you could be putting the Viva Rays glasses, the evening. I wouldn't put the nighttime one because they will put you to sleep right away.
So is Viva Rays available in India, Rudy? Could I get them here?
Yeah, totally, you could. Yeah. Now the second option, as I said, is you make sure you get natural artificial light that is around 2,300 kelvins in color temperature, because this is the color temperature of the sunrise. Now you want it bright enough to stimulate your circadian clock, so much so that this light will start acting as your sunrise, for instance, and it will start causing you to want to go to bed early and waking up at the same time every day, because you're doing this within a circadian zone that is very moldable, so to speak, that you could play with it in the direction that you wish, whether you want to shift it, whether you want to start waking up earlier, you have the power to, and this happens by getting this brightness of light as early in the day as possible.
Beautiful. I can't wait to actually peek into those and get one for myself. But and you also mentioned looking at sunset. So I would like you to, do you have any suggestions for how we might actually do that?
Information or the neurons or the light sensors in the eyes, letting our central clock know that the day is ending, okay? And therefore, our central clock sends signals to all of our peripheral clocks and organ clocks, letting them know that it's time to wind down and relax. And this starts changing our physiology, so much so that our energy start being directed within to repair and cellular cleaning. So I highly recommend that whether the sun is out or not, whether it's cloudy or not, it is very important to witness this slowly fading light. And what's also very, very important, that after we witness this, after we witness the sun descending down the musical scale, as I described it earlier, we want to come back home into an environment that supports what we just witnessed, and that doesn't emit light information that contradicts this. For instance, so many people would go and watch the sunset. They come back home and they're stimulated by all kinds of televisions, computer screens, phones, and LED bulbs. And what this does it confuses our brain because, well, our brain just got the information that the day is ending, and
Right.
10 minutes later, it's getting the information that it's 12 noon. And this literally start changing our physiology again, so much so that we won't be prepared for a restful night's sleep. And therefore, we don't live in caves anymore. We are exposed to technological advancement. We are exposed to LED bulbs. Sometimes we go out with friends to restaurants and we don't have control over the light environment. And this is why I'm in love with this tool, because what this tool allows me to do is it allows me to control my light environment wherever I am, whether I'm at some friend's house. I don't need to be feeling, very anxious about artificial lighting at night. All I need to do is put my glasses on, and this will help my brain understand the right time of the day, and therefore it will support my sleep, the way I wake up the second day, etc.
And of course, our listeners can't see the very cool looking glasses on you. So we'll probably attach a picture of that when we put up the promos for this episode. But you did talk about depression. Is there a reason why we might feel more depressed if we go to bed after being exposed to artificial junk light?
Well, there's infinite reasons. And I think I'm going to mention the two most important ones that I recently stumbled upon, and I found them very, very interesting. Dr. Samer Hitar, a circadian expert, recently published a paper showing that artificial light arriving at the eyes at night suppresses the release of dopamine and negatively influence our cognition and memory the second day. And this means that we will wake up feeling unhappy and much more likely to be feeling disappointed and unsatisfied. And it also means that we'll be much less effective at our work because our cognition is lower. Now, dopamine is this miraculous molecule that gives us the determination, inspiration, and drive to go after what we want in life, our ambitions, our desires. So we all need this beautiful molecule, so we have the power to think outside of the box and have greater abilities to make decisions and perceive the bigger picture in life. Now more than ever before, I think people are struggling with decision making and with connecting with their purposes and with their missions in life. Well, we need to start taking care of our dopamine, because dopamine is a phenomenal molecule that will really support us in this, that will really enable us to perceive and see the world in a much different way, in a much brighter way. So in order to do this, we really got to make sure that we're blocking artificial light at night and we're getting the good night's sleep that we deserve, nature's gift to us, so that we're waking up in the morning and with a healthy dopamine level. But not only this, here's an interesting piece of information. We have amino acids in the eyes called tyrosine and I forgot the other one. But the importance of this is that when we get early morning sunrise, these amino acids in the eye convert into serotonin, which optimizes our mood, and into dopamine, which makes us feel happy, motivated, and energized. And it also converts into melatonin. So interestingly, the hormone of darkness is actually produced in the eye in morning sunlight and is only activated at night in the absence of light. So again, we come back to the same tip: getting morning sunlight, blocking artificial light at night. So that's one reason how we can overcome our depression.
And I think also, Rudy, that dopamine plays such a big role also in why people can be motivated or not motivated to make other changes. So oftentimes you come across people who they know that they need to change their diet or to a different way, which would serve them much better. They're struggling with a lot of symptoms and conditions, but they, even when they know something is very good for them, they're simply unable to do so, and they don't feel the motivation. And dopamine plays such a role in all of that. So which means the right circadian rhythm can also be a foundational step towards motivating us to do bigger changes, which will eventually help us.
Totally. I love what you say there, what you said there, because it's very true. We are exposed to tremendous amount of information every day and tremendous amount of knowledge. The problem is that we think we know it, but we don't know it until we actually experience it. And dopamine will be the catalyst that will enable us to overcome our paradigms and to rewire new paradigms, because we are creatures of habit. And when our paradigm senses change, it will put a battle right away, not wanting to change. And even with simple things like this, helping someone to get morning sunlight rather than their cell phone, it will require rewiring a new habit. And this will create friction at the beginning. It might feel difficult. You might feel resistance that you don't want to. And, if your dopamine is low, this is not going to help. So you really got to start taking small steps. And every step will help you to figure out the next step. So even 5 minutes in the morning is a good start. And eventually, when you start experiencing the phenomenal, beautiful qualities that you're bringing into your life and how this is affecting your business, your relationship, your mood, your ability to sleep, you will eventually overcome your paradigm because you're experiencing it. It's not coming from me telling you what to do. It's coming from your innermost spring being that is happy about the changes that you're making in life.
I know we're almost out of time, Rudy, but I do want one quick question, and then we'll wrap up with you telling us how Viva Race is very unique. There's so much focus on weight reduction and people struggling with very extreme diets at times, which puts them into mood issues. But just tell us a little bit about what does the huge role that light and circadian rhythm play in our ability to burn fat.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this particular topic actually introduced me to one of my mentors. His name is Dr. Jack Kruse. He's a neurosurgeon in the States. And Dr. Jack Kruse suffered from overweight issues for years. And he managed to lose 111 pounds in 11 months without changing his diet and without exercising. It blew my mind. I mean, how did he do that?
Wow.
And through my studies and investigation, it became very clear. Well, when we are continuously exposed to blue light at night, as I mentioned, this increases our cortisol level. And since cortisol's role is to provide glucose and sugar for the flight and flight mechanism, this increases our blood sugar level. And it leads to all kinds of sugar and carbs craving at the wrong time of the day. Now, as my other mentor, Dr. Sachin Patel, whom I love so much, say,
I love Sachin.
A chaotic blood sugar level will lead to a chaotic mind and chaotic emotions. And when our emotions are chaotic, we're much more likely to take bad decisions in life. And this will also apply to our decisions around food. We're much more likely to eat unhealthy food when we're feeling emotionally unstable. And interestingly speaking, Dr. Sachin shared with me a beautiful story about an observation that he saw in his life. When he started using our daytime glasses during the day, he was noticing through taking different readings on his glucose monitor that even though he was still eating the same foods, his blood sugar level was much more stable. And this is literally because blue light or excessive exposure to blue light will start causing spikes in blood sugar level and drops. So Dr. Sachin noticed that, well, I didn't change my food diet, and only by wearing the glasses, my blood sugar level was much more stable. So I thought that's something very interesting. But what also blue light does, it could make us leptin resistant, okay? And leptin is this hormone that is stored under our fat tissues and is released after every meal to signal to our brain that we are feeling full, okay? Now, leptin has a circadian response also. And this happens when it's dark outside, melatonin rises. And therefore, when melatonin rises, leptin travels up into the hypothalamus in the brain, and it upregulates our thyroid hormone and our metabolism. And this all means that we will start burning fat at night while sleeping. And it's one of the most efficient mechanisms actually to burn fat at night. Okay. Now, who wouldn't love to burn fat? Who wouldn't love to not to burn fat?
Yes.
Sleeping? It's phenomenal. And this is how you're designed actually to burn your fat. Now, people often shut down this very important mechanism because they expose themselves to artificial light at night that suppresses melatonin, and therefore the leptin doesn't do what it does. And also people eat at night. And when you eat at night, well, the body cannot metabolize fat and burn fat at the same time. If you're in an eating mode and your body is metabolizing this food for energy, it cannot be burning that food, burning fat as well. It's either this or that. So this is why it's very important to eat early in the morning and start decreasing the food quantity that we eat as the day goes, because our digestive system becomes less efficient as we go. And at night, fasting is great, and getting the darkness that we want is great. And this will activate all these mechanisms, because when leptin is high, our hunger level is low. And when leptin is low, this increases our hunger level, and it will cause us to want to eat more and have sugar and carbs cravings. And it will also shut down our ability to burn fat at night. And if you combine these two together, it's the perfect recipe for gaining weight.
So important, Rudy. And that's why I think a lot of times people are doing everything right in terms of exercise, supplements, the most expensive ones, so much to do with their diet, but then their circadian rhythm is completely off and they just don't bring priority to that. And I think we spoke so much about that today. So I think our listeners would have got a lot out of that. But quickly, to wrap up the show, how is Viva Rays different from other blue light blockers in the market, and where can people find you? Where can people get access to their pair of it?
Totally. So, as I mentioned before, after consulting the world's leading expert in circadian rhythm and neuroscience, we learned that we need a 3-lens light management system so that we could manage our light and balance our consumption of light throughout the whole day. Nature is dynamic, and the light that we receive from nature is dynamic. And therefore, if we block blue light in the same way all day, it's literally like living under a sun that is not changing its position in the sky and is emitting the same light day and night. And this could be very destructive to our circadian rhythms. And this is why we engineered 3 different lenses for the 3 different times of the day. Now, during the day, we need a lot of blue light, okay? Because it stimulates our brain more than any other colors, and it elevates our mood, and it regulates our circadian rhythm. However, as I mentioned before, this blue light needs to be regulated, because the way we're exposing ourselves to it from LED bulbs and screens is literally unbalanced. So our glasses, the daytime ones, are designed to decrease the sharpness of the blue light at 455 nanometer and to balance it out with other colors so it's more proportionate with the green and the yellow. And this will help people to eliminate headaches, eye strain, and agitation that we often experience when we're exposed to a lot of artificial light. Now, how are our glasses different than other yellow tinted glasses in the market? Often, from running a lot of tests, we saw that those yellow tinted glasses, they block 100% of the blue light at 455 nanometer. Now, beside the fact that this is reductionist because it's eliminating a color completely, it also wipe out a lot of the blue turquoise at 480 nanometer. And as you may know, this frequency is very important during the day to reset our circadian rhythm and enable us to know that it's daytime so that we can stay energized and focused. So when people often wear these glasses, and this is my experience with them as well, when I first discovered our blue blocking glasses, I start feeling sleepy at the wrong time of the day, during the day, start feeling drowsy. And this is because we're eliminating wrong frequencies of light. So in Viva, we test out every lens, and we're following the latest circadian research. So our daytime glasses allow all the blue light at 480 nanometer. And this means that you will eliminate the junk blue light, yet you will stay focused, alert, and energized throughout the whole day as you're wearing them. And we also recommend people that they take sun breaks every 2 hours or so. Okay, so when they're inside, they're wearing our Viva daytime glasses and they're blocking artificial light. But then every 2 hours or so, going outside for 5 minutes and allowing the brain and body to soak in this natural sunlight so that we're staying in sync and in harmony with the light outside. Now, I mentioned 3 lenses. Our second lens is called the evening lenses. And those are designed to be worn after the sunset, okay? So when the sun sets, our brains start understanding that it's time to wind down. Now, these evening glasses, they are engineered to mimic the color temperature of the bonfire or of twilight, okay? Because for thousands of years, we've been exposed to these color temperatures. And what this information told us is that it's time to wind down and relax and to prepare for a restful night's sleep.
Right.
So by putting these glasses, these are designed to block 100% of the blue and just the high frequency green, not all of the green, so that you could still socialize, do your evening activities, maybe drive without feeling too sleepy. And I like to refer to it as the beginning of a bonfire. You know, when you're around fire,
right.
you're feeling relaxed. You have enough energy to dance and cook. So this is our evening glasses. I think they're also perfect for winter time because during the winter, the sun sets really early. And if you put our nighttime glasses here, which block all of the blue and all of the green, you'll get sleepy very quick. So those are designed to be worn 1 hour before bedtime. As soon as you finish your evening activities, you transition to them, and they enable you to access those higher state of sleep that you probably haven't accessed for a while, because they block all of the blue, all of the green, and they decrease the brightness by 20 times, making it really dark and really preparing the brain and the body into and putting it in a state where it understands it's nighttime, and it really prepares itself hormonally to a good night's sleep.
Love it, Rudy. So where can people actually find you and the glasses?
Totally. So if you go on www.vivarays.com, VIVARAYS.com, and over there also you'll have access to our free ebook. It's called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. I really recommend it because it's short and it's packed with action steps that someone could take to really improve their circadian rhythm and their light nutrition. And you can find our glasses on the website. We also share a lot of our educational material on Instagram, on Facebook, at Viva Rays. So feel free to follow us over there. And if you have any questions, anything that we can help you with, anything that we can support you with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we love to help. We love to get in touch with you. We love to support you.
And Rudy, I can't let you go without finishing our show mantra. So we have a show mantra: if sleep is the new medicine, then how's Rudy going to complete that for us?
If sleep is the new medicine, then let's take action steps together so we start reclaiming this power that nature has gifted us with.
Thank you, Rudy, for this amazing conversation. I really wish we could have had another hour, but we'll have you back at some point and we can talk about specific aspects. But I'm so appreciative of the time you gave us today.
Totally, Deepa. I really appreciate your presence, your beautiful questions, and your curiosity about wanting to learn more, and more so, your eagerness to wanting to help others to access restful night's sleep and to reclaim this power called sleep. So thank you.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Just a reminder that this podcast is for information purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or otherwise qualified health professional. This information is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you are looking for personal help on your health journey, do seek out a qualified professional. Please do make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research and in partnership with a qualified healthcare professional. It is in no way intended as medical advice or a treatment or cure for any condition. Be sure to always directly work with a qualified practitioner before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle that may feel out of your realm of comfort or understanding. If you are looking for an allied functional medicine practitioner, do seek out more information on www.phytothrive.com. It is important that you have someone who is qualified and understands your health personally in order to provide adequate care, especially when it comes to chronic health conditions. Be sure to subscribe to the Sleep Whisperer podcast on your favorite podcast app to get each episode as soon as it launches.